The Communications Ministry is insisting that we shut down our broadcast, and our instructions from CBS management are to do that. And who's going to interpret? Michael?
No, he speaks good English.
Oh, he speaks good English.
Yes.
I didn't know that. Thank you. Sir, my instructions now are from CBS management. I'm sorry this has to be done, and I wish it didn't have to be done, but my instructions from CBS management are to follow your commands, carrying out the authority of the Foreign Ministry and the Communications Ministry. And if you give the command to my colleague, he will shut us down.
他说得很快，你能跟我说一下？翻译一下，翻译一下。
他说他得到我们上头的命令说最好不要关，或你们说要关，他就想问问是什么意思，是什么原因？
对不起，我在这儿没什么可说的，因为刚才的情况你已经知道了。我下来是，就是说现在没有我的工作了，现在是你的工作。我就想说到这儿。
He said he has no comment. Since we agreed to shut it down at 12:45, and we got to shut it down.
Then I understand what you say, and if those are the orders from the Foreign Ministry and from his own ministry, then we have to do it. Final pictures we're showing here are of the what limited violence there have been and considerable chaos in downtown Beijing. These are the last pictures we'll be showing to you through our own facilities, and if we're able to show any more at all, I know not when. This is Dan Rather, CBS News, Beijing.
Here's a very different kind of orange juice.
To martial law and the ultimate censorship of events it cannot control. The plug has been pulled on foreign journalists from all of the networks, and as the blackout hit, violence was erupting in Tiananmen Square. Good evening. The bloodshed has begun in China, the crackdown against pro-democracy demonstrations. Police officers for the government of Beijing are doing what military soldiers would not do earlier today. Right now there are reports that the streets are full of crying people, saddened by the violence. But hundreds of thousands more people continue pouring into the streets to try to protect the students. These pictures were taken just as the Chinese government declared martial law, and then came the wave of government representatives to deliver the word to foreign journalists.
Mr. Gorbachev's China visit is over. Now I'm here announcing that CNN should stop.
While Tiananmen Square remained full of student protesters, as it had been all day, and the surrounding streets were crowded with hundreds of thousands of people blocking caravans of soldiers, the hard-line rules were detailed to news agencies.
The Beijing government has issued warnings to foreigners telling them they cannot contact any Chinese citizens regarding the student demonstrations. And foreign reporters are not allowed to interview or film Chinese citizens about the demonstrations, and we are not allowed to enter any Chinese factories, offices, or private homes.
Then came the reports from the square by phone of the violence.
The square right now, Forrest, is a battleground. ABC News cameramen at the scene report seeing police officers clubbing students, bloodying their faces.
Nightline's experts tonight speculate what those tensions can mean for the future.
It's far from a called game in terms of whether this act of repression can succeed. Also, we ought to remember that this whole dilemma is going on all over China. It's not just in Peking.
We have just heard late word from China. There are tanks now south of that square, and the action there continues as police continue to move in under the declaration of martial law. By the way, the last time martial law was declared was when Communist China was founded 40 years ago. By the way,
with behind the scenes. Today, for the first time since last weekend, we have been allowed to transmit from Beijing by satellite. Here again is ABC's John Lawrence.
It was the biggest demonstration in Beijing since martial law was imposed early Saturday, and it signaled a possible shift in the political struggle for power in China. It was led by intellectuals and included workers, journalists, academics, and students on the 11th day of their sit-in demonstration. The main target of the protest was Premier Li Peng, the hardliner who ordered martial law to crack down on the demonstrators. Some marchers shouted, "Li Peng is an enemy of the people." A heavy afternoon rainstorm did not deter the marchers. Earlier, 2 men splattered paint on the portrait of Mao Zedong in the square. It was taken down and replaced. Students say they were not responsible. On television here, pictures of the anti-Li Peng protest were shown. They were also reported by the government-controlled news agency Xinhua for the first time. A People's Army officer said on TV, "We will never shoot at the people," while Xinhua announced that some army units have been withdrawn from Beijing. This army unit was still stranded 10 miles west of the city Tuesday morning. It has been blocked by the people for 4 days. A soldier says, "We will not attack the people." Some of the people are growing weary of the army presence.
Since the soldiers come here, everybody in disorder. So the people are very angry. The people really want to drive them away.
Communist Party leader Zhao Ziang, who met with hunger-striking students last week and then disappeared from view when his rival Li Peng declared martial law, may be making a comeback in the power struggle. A leading moderate in the government, Zhao is said to be back in charge of the party. At Tiananmen Square, the number of students staging the sit-in may be declining, partly due to fatigue, but their spirit seems strong.
We need a rest. We have been here for a long time and we are very tired. But we, after have a good rest, we'll come back here.
We people will win and Li Peng will be defeated.
It is dawn Wednesday in China now, and the number of students still here in the square is down to a few thousand. Their fortunes seem to rely largely on the outcome of the struggle for power between Zhao Ziang and Li Peng, a struggle that does not appear to have been decided yet. John Lawrence, ABC News, Tiananmen Square, Beijing.
But as you can see there, for the 5th straight day of martial law, the demonstrators in Tiananmen Square have successfully defied the government. Elsewhere in the city, there was little sense of trouble or confrontation. Here's ABC's Mark Litke.
The people of Beijing were actually relaxed and smiling today, increasingly confident that the thousands of troops on the outskirts of town will stay where they are. Not even the children are afraid of the soldiers, shouting friendly greetings as they wait for school. After days of apprehension following the declaration of martial law, optimism is now in the air. Life is returning to normal. Traffic cops are back on the job. The city is moving again. On national TV, the Transportation Department announced that the subways are operating and most of the city's buses are running. Those student demonstrators are still holding on to 100 or so to use as barricades just in case. Business was brisk in shopping districts. The government had warned of widespread shortages and higher prices. People here say it was a ploy to frighten them so they wouldn't support the students. Supplies still made it to market and no one went hungry. But perhaps the most refreshing sign of normalcy, the garbage brigade finally made it into Tiananmen Square, hauling out tons of foul-smelling debris. Clearly, this uprising has crippled a government, but not the spirit of the city or its people. Even in the midst of political turmoil, there's still a place for a carefree couple to waltz in the streets. Mark Litke, ABC News, Beijing.